What's up guys, Anthony here with Lancer Tactical, and today we're going to take a look at the line from Zion Arms. So we're going to start off with the PW9s. This is going to be the Mod 0 here. We'll start with this little guy. So to start off with, these are actually a one-to-one replica of an actual real steel 9mm bufferless PDW setup. It's going to be from R&D Precision. Theirs goes by the same name of the PW9. What makes this an interesting setup for the fact that the airsoft version is you're going to be getting a full CNC metal upper and lower with a CNC rail. Now this one in particular you'll notice has no stock. So this one's going to be set up to accept any sort of a Picatinny or 1913 stock setup that you would wish. Going over the externals, you're going to have a pretty basic setup of your regular selector here. You're obviously going to have safe, semi, and full auto. Then you're going to have your regular normal right-handed mag release here. So nice and easy paddle style. Pretty good for that. Nice flat trigger there. Now on this one, this is going to be a front side charger, so it's going to be a nice interesting difference there versus your normal AR style charging handle. Now this one does have a bolt hold open feature, so when you rack it, it will lock your little mock bolt back so you can adjust your hop up a little bit easier, and then you can also drop it by pressing the bolt release. What I like about this small one, the Mod 0 here, is although some of you may see it as a negative, you can't put a front grip on this one, but that's because the rail itself already has a small built-in grip here. So you'll have a nice little finger stomp, if you will, so you can bring your fingers up. And although it's not like a grip or a traditional vert grip like most would be used to or want to put onto it, this one's more or less a finger stomp so that you can throw your hand up and not risk going over and grabbing your barrel or your suppressor or trace unit, whatever. Especially if you're running the real one, you wouldn't want to ever touch this, so it's going to be pretty hot. So that's a good stop point there to just throw your hand up and you'll be good to go. And then we do have the Mod 1 over here, which is going to be the version with an actual full stock setup. This one is going to be your traditional style, so you can have a buffer tube with your buffer setup if you're running the real one. Now this one does come with a Delta stock. You can see this one's a little bit dressed up for you guys. So as far as the externals go, it's going to be pretty much the same. So you'll have your paddle mag release on the side. You're going to have your same similar selector switch here. Same thing as far as your bolt lock. It does lock the bolt back. You can hit your bolt release to send it forward. Now this one is going to be running the traditional charging handle like you're all used to with your AR platforms. At the same time, it's going to be a little bit longer here, so you have more rail space with the monolithic pick rail on the top, so you can mount anything your heart desires. This one does give you M-lock on the sides as well and the bottom, so you can throw on whatever sort of attachments you want. This one doesn't limit you to not being able to put on any sort of vertical or lower accessories that you want, since you are going to have M-lock across the bottom. So this one's a little bit different, a little bit longer, not as small, no folding stock on this one, but it's still very nice in of its own. Now, going over some of the internals on this one. This one is one of those guns that I like to say is a pretty good candidate for not necessarily needing upgrades. You could kind of leave it as is. Now, if you are tech inclined, you'll understand when I say that you can just simply tune it a little bit and it'll be nice and snappy. You're gonna get a full metal rack piston. You're gonna be running ball bearings or bearings for your gears. So you're going to be nice and smooth there. Shouldn't be as grindy or screechy as when you're running bushings. Now you're going to be running a 19K motor. So it's going to be pretty snappy, not as fast and not as slow. So you're going to get a nice little trigger response balance there. You're going to be running the Zion Arms Nebula MOSFET, which is actually one of my favorites. It's programmable, so you can run safe, semi, full auto, or you can program it to be full semi-lock. You can set up multiple different burst modes, and you can even run binary. That is all programmed through your selector. So it's nice and simple, pretty easy. Just click it for the beeps, press and hold the trigger, and then you lock it in. Now, moving on to the gears, this is probably one part that a lot of people will say is a bit of a negative, but if you don't want to have to mod it and like change out parts, it's actually pretty sweet. So the Zion Nebula MOSFET is a magnetic sector gear sensing system. So your sector gear does have a little magnet in it, and that's kind of what spins and gets detected by the MOSFET. So that's how you get your cycle detection. So if you were to try and mod it, you're going to have to replace that, especially if you're changing out MOSFETs. If you're changing out MOSFETs, you're fine, because obviously the next MOSFET you put in probably doesn't run off that magnet system. But if you want to just leave it as is, some of the things that I've done to one of my personal ones, a different gun that has the exact same MOSFET system in it, is I simply short stroke the gears. That way it's faster, but you're still keeping the same platform. You don't have to actually worry about changing anything, and that on of its own will increase some of your performance. Now, as far as the hop-up unit goes on these, it's going to be running a rotary style hop-up. So you have your little wheel here up and down, adjust it. The stock barrel bucking and hop-up system is actually pretty good. During our testing, I was shooting .28s, and I had to do very minimal adjustments on the hop-up to get them shooting nice and flat. Granted, on the shorter one, you're also going to be limited a little bit on range just because of the length of it, and it's shooting at a little bit of a lower FPS. So those 2.8s with 0 hop on were dropping relatively quickly, but adjustments of the hop got them shoot pretty good indoor distances. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You can always do an inner barrel and a bucking swap. You don't necessarily need to change the hop-up unit because of the rotary style that it is. It's actually really good out of the box. Typically on my personal guns, I leave that rotary and I'll just do a barrel and a bucking and you're good to go. And one thing to note on these guys is regardless of which variant you go with, they all will include built-in sling points, your QD sling points. You're going to have one on the left and the right sides. So you'll have them here. Same thing with the long versions, you'll have them on both the left and the right side as well. So if you want to run some sort of a 2-point or a single point, you'd have your 1 point here, and then for the Delta stock, you'd be able to hit it on the rear here with your extra QD link, unless you wanted to run it through one of the slots on the actual stock itself. Now for this guy, unless you're running some sort of a stock that has QD points on it, you'd be probably limited to running a single point. It's a little odd though, because if you want to dangle upwards on you like this, so I would say put a stock on it so that way you can do that. Now, if you wanted to keep it short like this, you could always just get a QD mount for the rear here. That way you have 1 point for your sling here, and then one on either the left or the right side. That will give you that 2-point action. Now, furthermore, going over this guy a little bit. Now, included in the package with this one, you do actually get a battery and charger, which is really nice, especially when you consider the battery compartment on this little guy is actually relatively small and goes right in here. So included in the box with this one, you'll actually get a small battery. You're going to get an 1100 11.1. Now this one is actually nice because it does tuck in fairly easily. You'll have to get used to it at first. It can be a little bit of a learning curve to start getting your battery in there, but once you get it, it's nice and tucked away. You have your included little battery cover, so this will give it that like kind of flush look. It'll be nice and tucked away. You won't really notice that you have a battery in the rear, and you'll still be able to run that folding stock whichever way you wanted to go with. The decision to go with this sort of battery spacing in the rear here is to maintain that 1-to-1 scale replica of what the real one does, since the real one does have its integrated buffer system or bufferless system is in the rear as well, which allows you to run that stockless setup where you don't need a buffer tube with your buffer weight and your buffer spring. So to keep it like that, that's why they chose to go with a small battery compartment in the rear versus trying to make it front wired or have to have you run some sort of external battery compartment like a PEC box. All right, and then moving on to the next versions, we have the R15s. We're going to have the Mod 0 and the Mod 1. So the main differences that you can see with these is obviously you're going to be running a 5.56 or an M4 mag on these. Now, just like before, this one's going to be the bufferless setup, so it's going to have a Picatinny rear mount. So as you can see on this one, I do currently have the folding stock setup on this guy right here. So you can see this is the type of stock that you'd be able to attach on this guy if you wanted to run some sort of a folding stock. So you can get it still somewhat compact, just nice and easy like that. And you're not limited to this style of stock. Any sort of stock that attaches via a 1913 or a Picatinny mount, you'll be able to run on here. Now, same thing as the little guy. This one's going to have the nice little small battery compartment right here in the bottom. So stick your little brick battery in there and you'll be good to go. Just like the other one, this is going to be the side charger. So just like all the other ones before, this does have the regular M4 style mag release. You are going to have the bolt lock feature, so it does lock your bolt to the rear. Pressing your bolt release, you will send it home. Nice and easy, makes for easy hop-up adjustments, which I kind of like, so you can get in there nice and easy. They're all going to be running the exact same internals, so every version you see here today will have the Zion Arms Nebula MOSFET, which, like I said, does give you the ability to go from anywhere from single shot up to 5-round burst, and including binary if you so choose, if your field allows it. You're all gonna come included with the 19K motor. You're gonna be running a steel set of 18-to-1 gears with a full metal rack piston. So So for those that don't know, what that means is the teeth on your piston are going to be metal versus plastic, as where some of other pistons are plastic. Less likely that you're going to blow through that and strip it out. It gives you a little bit of a safer mindset in knowing that you're not going to blow the internals up as easily. It gives you some reliability as well. So it's a little bit of peace of mind there. Now, going over the barrels, they all come with a 603 polished inner barrel, obviously varying lengths. So if you do so choose, you can always go with a different 603 or even a tighter bore like a 600 or a 601 of some sort. Keep in mind that the longer variations of the Zions will be shooting anywhere from 380 to 400, whereas the short versions will be shooting 330 to 350 for indoor play. Altogether, all of them will be shooting right around the 14 to 15 RPS mark, depending on the battery. This one I do like because of how easy it is to get to your actual battery installation and your spacing. Nice and easy. Just tuck your battery in there regardless of what size you're using. Just throw that guy in there. Make sure you line this little guy up. And once it's all lined up, you just close it back up and you're all set. Now keep in mind as well, every single one of the variants that we have on for you guys to see today does come included pre-wired to Deans. So make sure when you're grabbing your battery, you are going with the correct connector. You're going to be wanting a Deans connector instead of a Tamiya, which is actually really good because it's going to help you with your efficiency and not be as heat producing when it comes to running your battery. So going over this little guy here, this is going to be the R15 Mod 1. Pretty straightforward. It's the same as this little guy, just in the short package. So if you want one that's a little bit smaller, more CQB friendly, but you still want that battery space that the buffer tube setup will allow, this is going to be the one for you. So you're going to be running that short handguard with the built-in finger stop here. That way you don't have to worry about that. Now, some of you might see that as a little bit of a negative. You can't put your own style of vert grip, angled grip, or some sort of different hand stop. But it's still nice that it comes pre-built in. You don't have to worry about it. You are going to get, on the short one, you still get your M-locks on the side here, full monolithic pick top mount, so you can set up any sort of optic or laser versions or flashlights that you want to go on here. As you can see, we have this little dive board set up. That way it kind of saves some of the top rail space for your hand if you are doing a C-clamp. If you're just going for this type of grip, then you don't have to really worry about that. This one does have the traditional charging handle with the bolt hold open, and you can hit the bolt release on the opposite side to send that home. So if you guys are interested in picking up any one of the Zion Arms variants that you see before you here, you can head on over to any one of our Lancer Tactical retailers and pick one up for yourselves. My name is Anthony, and thanks for watching.